Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with our final Team Affinity video of the year. So we got our Season 4 cards, and from what I can tell, this looks to be all of the Season 4 cards that we will be getting. Maybe we'll get like a cover athlete or something. My conspiracy theory is that it's going to be Ellie, because there's no way they chose Spencer Steer over Ellie De La Cruz for the finest of the Reds unless they were getting multiple. So that's just my conspiracy theory. But hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully it helps you build your lineups for this final little part of the game's life cycle. And yeah, let's get into it. So Ezekiel Tovar, his swing's solid. It's not bad. I think objectively none of these finest cards are necessarily bad. You can make all of them work. So yeah, we are going to be a little harsher on the gradings. But 112, 119, 108, 106. So honestly, maybe a little low for the power at this point of the game where you can choose basically an entire lineup of guys that are 125, 125. But all things in mind, pretty decent, especially if you're running the finest captain. He gets even better. So this Nolan Arenado, kind of disappointing. I think I'll put him B just because if you really like his swing, if you really enjoyed the captain from season one, then there's nothing objectively wrong with this card until maybe when you get on Legend. On Legend, this 103 contact left is gonna give you a really small PCI. But other than that, pretty good card. 125 contact right, 125 power left, 101 power right, 116 clutch kind of makes up for the low contact left, as well as one of the better defensive third basemen in the game. Is pretty slow, so if that's a deal breaker at this point of the year, where you can pretty much pencil in 125 everything with 80 speed at every position, maybe not the guy for you. Ketel Marte, easy S tier. If you use his season one awards card, you know how good this guy was. Super deserving card. Um, More or less, I'm not sure where he finished in NL MVP voting, but he was second or third. Had an absolutely monster season. If the D-backs were a little better, he might even would have got it over Otani. 125 contact left, 110 right, 125 left, 118 right, with 125 clutch. And you can also see very respectable in the field. Diamond defense, 99 reaction, pretty good arm strength, and somewhat fast. So at second base, which is his primary, he's going to be one of the better defensive second basemen in the game. Can also play a pretty decent short, pretty decent corner outfield. Probably would not run him in center field, but this is one of the best cards in the game. He is the overall reward for getting all of the Team Affinity cards and XP cards. So he's very good. Santander, I think he has to go S tier just because he's a switch hitter with an awesome swing. But I do realize that some of his stats aren't too crazy. Like 105 contact left, little low. 110 contact right, also a little low, but maxed out power, somewhat low clutch. And he's a pretty good fielder with silver fielding, almost a maxed out arm, and decent reaction. More of a DH or a first baseman, can play first. So if you are on All Star or Hall of Fame and you need a power hitting, switch hitting first baseman, he's going to be your guy. On Legend, maybe not, but even then, with being a switch hitter and having that good of a swing, makes him pretty elite. This Wheeler card, he's all right. He's fine. No outlier or anything really. His pitch mix is fine. 120 hits, pretty much par for the course at this point of the year. 100 walks, 123 clutch, four seam, sinker, slurve, cutter, splitter. Pretty solid. Um, it's not like a dominant pitcher, but it's also not bad. I think maybe he could get to A just because some of the other pitchers in this drop just aren't that good. Speak of the devil, we have Kenley Jansen here. This card's super mid to me. I would rather have Camilo Duvall every day. 122 hits, 122 strikeouts, 119 walks. So he will have a Mo esque par size on a lot of his pitches. He will have a really small par where you can just kind of put this cutter in the corner a lot. But it's not outlier. He has like the Camilo Duvall mix without outlier. I'd rather have Camilo Duvall personally. Feel like why not give him outlier at this point of the year, but it is what it is. Trey Turner, pretty easy S tier here. Probably not as a center fielder, just because he's not that five tool player that you would really like to have in center field. When you have alternative cards like Mike Trout and Mickey Mantle, and even like Griffey. But at second base, at shortstop, can't really go wrong with him. 125, 118, 115, 100. So the 100 power right, a little bit low at this point of the game, but is what it is. 110 clutch. Gold fielding if you play him as primary, silver if you play him as secondary, with 84 reaction and 99 speed. So very, very solid guard. Really, if you're using Turner, it's for the speed or it's for the swing. He always has one of the best righty swings in the game. This year is no different. Absolute stud. Bobby Witt, for me, probably S tier. I mean, when you look at this card statistically, nothing wrong with him. 125, 125, 103, 113, 125 clutch, maxed out fielding for the most part, 99 speed. I mean, the guy just had one of the best seasons of any shortstop ever. So, absolute stud. Fairly easy S tier. If you use that player of the month one and you really enjoyed his swing, you're going to love that one. This right here, my favorite card that came out today. This Jose Ramirez looks like a monster. 125, 104, 125, 115, maxed out clutch. Diamond defense at third base, which is probably where you should play him, either third, second, or left field. And then 89 speed. This card is a stud. I've been saying it all year. I think he probably has the best swing in the game. That home run derby one was insane. This one's going to be no different. He should be basically in everybody's lineup for the rest of the year. William Contreras, I think he's a solid A tier. Statistically, he's up there for being one of the best catchers in the game. 125, 120, 100, 111. So the power might be a little low. Um, Max out clutch. But really, you're just kind of comparing him to like Adley and Posada, where Adley has more power than him, I believe. Posada has basically the same maxed out clutch, and he's also a switch hitter. So catcher wise, I don't think he really moves the needle, but if you just don't have those other guys for whatever reason, he's definitely a serviceable option. Justin Martinez, I think this card goes in B. He is going to be a pub stomping pitcher. He's basically Yohan Duran when you look at him. There's a sinker outlier with a outlier four seam, with a splitter, with a slider, with really bad speed differentials. I think you're really gonna have to be on legend or playing somebody that's not that great with timing up pitches to really maximize him. But he can be solid. He's not a terrible card by any means. Bryce, he's either very top of A or very bottom of S. The lefty at bats are just going to be brutal. Let's be real. You're going to be seeing John. You're going to be seeing Randy a lot. 125, 111, 102, 115. So honestly, lower power than you probably love to see, but maxed out clutch and a decent fielder at first base. Probably um, not good enough to play in the outfield. So at first base, at DH, I think there's better options. I'm gonna drop him to A. If you really love his swing, I would hear out S tier. But for me, I'd probably rather have Cody Bellinger, rather have Babe Ruth, rather have like Lou Gehrig. And that's just only if you're talking about lefty first baseman. So this Burns card, B, similar boat to Martinez, where just not great speed differentials. A lot of people have seen him. He's going to get absolutely ripped apart, but he can be solid, especially with an outlier sinker. That's a sneaky little add on to him. But you look at him just through nines wise, just kind of behind the curve at this point. Giving him an outlier sinker is a nice touch, but at the end of the day, it's Corbin Burns. He hasn't been good in a while in the game. Stephen Kwan, I think he's either like top of B or bottom of A. Another just pretty solid card. 125, 113, 190 power rights, kind of scary. 115 clutch. Very good fielder, but he's slow. So, not going to play a premium defensive outfield for you. Also, is going to struggle with power. There are going to be people that love his swing. Cool. Push him up to A tier. But for me personally, there's no way he's cracking my lineup at this point. So, I think he's just B. Jackson Merrill, I think this is just another B tier card. He's fine. I believe he got a Player of the Month or something like that. So if you enjoyed that card, you'll definitely love this one. 102, 125, 105, 110 with 110 clutch. Um, Decent fielding, and he's also pretty fast. You can see diamond defense with almost a max out arm and 91 reaction. That's up there with like Mickey Mantle and Trout, but still not exactly to their tier. But he has a lot of positional versatility. Center field, first base, second base, shortstop, the corner outfield spots. So you can play him almost everywhere. Matt Chapman, slept on card. I think he's still B tier, but he is slept on. I think his swing's pretty solid, but when you look at these stats 106, 102, 106, 112, nothing special, especially at this point in the game. This is a card that will probably, if you're on All Star, good to go. If you're on Hall of Fame, you'll probably struggle. If you're on Legend, shouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But it's a fun card. I think his swing is better than people give it credit for being. Speaking of swings, Riley Green, kind of disappointing. Honestly, has kind of a trash lefty swing in my opinion. And also his stats just aren't that crazy. If you want a pinch hitter for righties off your bench, he can be that guy. But 100, 119 against lefties, 125 clutch. Decent fielder, but he's also not super fast, so he's not going to play like a premium outfield for you. He's solid. Maybe I could see an argument for moving up to A tier. I'll let the Tiger bias kind of seep in and push him up to A tier. Severino, pretty solid. Another guy they give outlier sinker to. They give a lot of outlier sinkers out. 111 hits, 109 walks, very nice. Clutch isn't super high. Speed differential isn't super high, but throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball with an outlier sinker, with the slurve, with the cutter, with the circle change. Big fan of this card. I think he's slightly better than Zach Wheeler, but they're both pretty solid pitchers. Tanner Scott, C tier. He's basically every Tanner Scott we've got all year. He's pretty brutal to hit lefty lefty, especially on these higher difficulties with this maxed out hits and maxed out clutch. But he's still gonna struggle with control. At the end of the day, his mix isn't that hard to hit, and if he pitches to a righty, it's probably a home run every time. So not one of my favorite cards from today. If you used Tanner Scott in the past, you kind of know he's really hard to hit lefty lefty and then kind of BP against righties. Lugo, probably just B. This is a card I didn't even really look at a ton to be honest. 109 hits, 108 walks. That's decent. Good clutch, good velo differential, but I bet you that's off of probably from the four seam to the slurve. So you're looking at four seam, sinker, slurve, cutter, splitter. It's not terrible. I would have to look at his in-game card to see kind of how fast he's throwing the splitter. If he's throwing that splitter like 88 to 90, then that's pretty trash. And I think I'm just gonna leave him at B tier. One of the few times in a tier list where I'm not insanely educated on what that card looks like. McMahon, A tier. Everybody got him. Little Thanksgiving packets in the store for you if you don't already have it. 120, 107, 114, 115, 108 clutch. Very good fielding, and he can play second base. Second base, third base, first base. Absolute stud. Always has a really good swing in the game. Honestly, borderline S tier. Um, I think it just kind of depends on how well you hit lefty lefty. If he's A tier or S tier. Colton Cowser, another card that has a really nice swing. I'm gonna have to see his stats because I picked him last on my AL East back. And you can see 102, 114, 115, 125, 102 clutch, decent fielding, but he's not super fast. So again, not gonna play a premium defensive outfield, but he should be good enough. I think if Riley Green's A tier, he should probably be A tier. He has a really good swing. If you remember, I believe he got supercharged at the very start of the year. Everybody batted like 800 with his guard and BR. He has a very nice swing. It's just the stats let him down a little bit. Sonny Gray, if you've ever used a Sonny Gray, you know he's just kind of always underwhelming. 105 hits is really underwhelming. 107 control isn't crazy at this point. And then you can see four seam, slurve, 12-6. So he's throwing basically two curveballs. That's a no immediately anyway. And then he has a sinker and a cutter. So you're basically throwing a fastball or a curveball every pitch with him. Um, just not really going to be that great. Big Aaron Judge, S tier card for sure today. Unanimous MVP, Aaron Judge. You can see 120, 125, 125, 125. If you are one of these guys that always complain about vision, he also has 90 vision, has 125 clutch, and he's pretty good in the outfield. Diamond defense, 90 reaction, pretty slow. So again, with most judge cards, he's a primary center fielder, so you're gonna have to take 5 off of those numbers. And he's still not gonna play an awesome outfield, but you can live with him in a corner. His bat will make up for it. Or if you want to DH him, he's also awesome there. He's very similar to um, like the playoff or the action figure Giancarlo that we got. Really, the only excuse to not use Aaron Judge now, because I think his swing's better, his vision's better. Statistically, this card's perfect at the plate pretty much. Is you don't like tall hitters. If you don't like those 6'4" plus hitters that have a bigger strike zone, then he's probably not going to be a guy for you. But I think he's an absolute monster. Tyler Neal, probably A tier. I feel like another guy that I picked close to last in that pack. 125 left, 100 right, 125, 125, 109, 80 fielding with 85 reaction, more than good enough. 85 speed, and he's a left fielder. So assuming you're playing him in left field, I think he's knocking on S tier. I think the contact hurts him a lot if you're going to legend. And he might still have some rough at bats on Hall of Fame, but for the most part, he's going to be good. He also has a very nice swing. Edwin Uceta, I believe is how you pronounce it. Was really excited about this card when I saw a 5 pitch reliever. I kind of got flashbacks to like the finest Felix Bautista when he first came up with the Orioles. That first year got finest card was absolutely gross. Kind of had flashbacks to that card. Not really. Not really. Just because a pitcher throws 5 pitches does not mean they are a good 5 pitches. You can see he throws a sinker, pretty good. Circle change, pretty good. Cutter, pretty good. And then he's throwing a slurve and a curveball. And they just don't really combo super great. He doesn't really have super high velo differential. And if you are also somebody that hates those like Rob Dibble type pitchers with the really long windups, probably not going to enjoy Edwin. Um, he's decent and he can do a job, but he's definitely not anywhere close to the top tier of cards we got today. Vlad Jr. really close to S tier. It really, for me, it depends on how much you like his swing. I think his power is a little low, honestly, at 111, 108, but the contact's really good. So on Legend, or if you're not super comfortable on Hall of Fame, this can be one of your top contact options for first baseman. And there's also some freaky stuff you can do with captains to get him up to, I believe, 98 speed with no parallels. So that's interesting and worth mentioning. Really, where you rank him at in these tiers just kind of depends on how good you are with this swing. I don't think it's a great swing, but I also don't think it's like offensive. Crochet looks nasty on paper. He's not an insane card. 105, 107 walks for him is pretty nice. Another guy they gave outlier sinker to. For me, give him the outlier four seam, leave the sinker as like a max velo sinker topping out at like 96, 97. This car would be a lot better. As is, he's fine. He has a funky arm delivery. It can be hard to tell the difference between the four seam from the cutter from the slurve. So there's definitely some tunneling potential. He's almost like a starting Aroldis Chapman almost. Just wish he had that outlier four seam. Would make him a little better in my opinion. Jock Peterson, I feel like I kind of have to give him A because the community love Jock cards. I personally never do that great with him, but 101 left, 121 right, 104 left, 125 right, 125 clutch. And obviously, he's not a fielder. He is a DH. I'm going to rank him as a DH. And as a DH, honestly, as a DH, I think he's mid. I'm putting him at B tier. People aren't going to like it, but I think he's mid. For me, if I'm going to run a DH, I'm not running a DH. I have to platoon. Like, if you load into a game and your opponent's pitching Randy Johnson or John Donaldson, he's not going to have fun. He does have a very nice swing, so that kind of helps him out a little bit, but it's still a situation where I'd probably rather pull him at that point and put in like a Castellanos or somebody that just bashes lefties. So as a DH, don't rank him that highly. Um, Bregman's cool. His swing's fine. In my opinion, Bregman is basically just Matt Chapman, but with better stats. I think their swings are somewhat similar. 100, 119, 120, 115, 104 clutch. Pretty good defense. It's not Matt Chapman level defense, but it's serviceable enough to where I think he just has a better bat, and I think that makes him slightly better. If you want to say that Matt Chapman's like B and Bregman's like B plus, I could live with that. Definitely a solid card. Also has nice versatility. Can play like first, can play third, can play short, so you can move him around. Speaking of a guy you can move around, Taylor Ward usually has a pretty nice swinging game. You can see corner outfield, center field, third base, first base, can play all of them. 125, 101, 109, 119, 113 clutch, somewhat fast, somewhat good defense. The reaction's really high, which is something you love to see from guys that you're looking to play at multiple positions. He does that for you. Usually has a very nice swing. I haven't used him an absolute ton this year, but he should be more than serviceable. Griffin Jacks, if you play BR, you know he's a fairly good reliever. He looks disgusting on paper. Rarely does he ever perform to that level, actually, but he's always pretty good. So you can see number one ranked slurve according to Showzone. For me, it doesn't really matter about break and stuff like that. It's more about just using the pitcher and seeing their arm slot. So slurve, four seam, circle change, sinker, no outlier. A little disappointing, but sinker, 12-6 curve. I said I don't like slurves and a curveball, but out of the bullpen, you can make it work a little more. Should be a pretty solid card. Probably the best reliever we got today. Mason Miller, very similar. If you're somebody that uses Rob Dibble, here you go. This is the best version you'll get of Rob Dibble all year. 125, 125, 89 walks, not bad. 118 clutch. Outlier four seam, throwing at 102 plus pretty much every pitch. Slider, circle, splitter, cutter. This is just a 5 pitch Rob Dibble and a better Rob Dibble. So, honestly, I think he's better than Griffin Jacks, but I don't think Griffin Jacks is like a B tier reliever by any means. So I think Miller has to go in S tier, which is kind of crazy. Spencer Steer, solid card. Nothing to write home about. Like I said, I would have much preferred an Ellie De La Cruz card. But hopefully he's a cover athlete. We get like a 125 everything Ellie. That would be super tough. But you can see just underwhelming stats: 102, 111, 100, 118, 125 clutch. Not a great fielder. Does have good positional versatility, which is nice to have. But I'm not gonna overrate him because of it. Willie Adamas, statistically pretty good card. As far as power hitting shortstops go, it's going to be kind of hard to find somebody better than this, but 100, 120, 102, 125, 120 clutch, very good fielding, kind of slow. So, not going to be the greatest fielder in the world. With him, it just comes down to the swing. Some people really like his swing, some people absolutely hate it. I'm kind of more so in the middle on it. I could go either way. Otto Lopez, I think this is a C tier hitter, which is hard to say. There's not a lot of hitters that I would say suck. This is just a really underwhelming finest card. 103, 125, 85, 95, 125 clutch. Good fielding, nothing insane. Like, it's not like having Brooks Robinson at third base or um, like a crazy defensive second baseman, but it's pretty good, right? It's 99, 92, 93 speed. This is basically just Luis Arias again. Can play a lot of positions. Um, he's fine, but not great. Max Fried, I think this is another like A tier pitcher. If you want to make the argument that he is worse than like Severino and Wheeler, I would hear you out there. But Fried always kind of has a funky delivery. Also has some really good 3.9s, 115, 104. And he has some pretty good pitches: four seam, 12-6, sinker, circle change, slurve. So not my favorite thing in the world. I thought he had a cutter for some reason. I think I'm fine with bumping him down. I think he's better than Sonny Gray and potentially better than Seth Lugo. but he's nothing insane. Kirby Yates, good on him. It is basically the same Kirby Yates that we always get, except with one extra pitch that doesn't really change him. Four seam, splitter, slider. That's the usual. They gave him a slurve. For me, a slider and a slurve is somewhat redundant. If you're really keen, if you know how to tunnel those together, you can make it work. Or you can show one a lot and then bring the other one out. You can make it work. It makes them a slightly better card, but at the end of the day, it's still Kirby Yates. I think I might even put him in D tier. Say Suzuki, there's not really a great comp for him other than just the captain card. If you use the captain card and you liked his swing, this one's better. Because the captain card only hit one side really well. This guy has close to max contact against both sides and pretty alright power at this point. I think this is more or less the minimum power you should be looking for at this point. I'm looking more so for 110 plus, but you can make this work. And then 115 clutch, pretty good fielding. If one of these numbers is going to be low, you want it to be the fielding. And then 85 speed. So not bad at all, assuming you leave him in his primary right field. Not a bad card. Luis Garcia, very good against righties. And that's pretty much all I can really say. He's the second baseman that has no power against lefties, not awesome contact against lefties, good clutch, and is honestly a poor fielder. So, as a pinch hitter against righties, maybe this is one of the guys you put on your bench if you're using the Corbin Carroll boost, and you bring him in if he needs to pinch it, but not one of my top guys. Ryan Reynolds, if you haven't already got the theme, if they're a switch hitter, they're probably S tier. 114, 121, 100, 111. Like I said, lower power than I'd probably like when your alternatives are 125 everything guys. But 125 clutch, decent fielding. The reaction's pretty bad and the speed's not great, so that's gonna hold him back. His best spot will definitely be as a DH, but you can make him work in left field, especially with his swing and being a switch hitter. You can definitely fit him in. Kirby, I think Kirby's top of B tier. On paper, he looks really good. He even has an outlier sinker, I'm fairly certain. He does 103, 125. His parts are pretty big from what I've seen on All Star, so I don't think that's going to scale super well. He also doesn't have very good hits. Four seam, sinker, slider, splitter, knuckle curve. Not my favorite pitcher in the world. You can make him work. He can definitely give you good innings. I don't think he's as bad as like a bunch of these guys are. But he would not be my first pick. And then Glasnow, I think ordinarily Glasnow would be C. I think he's very bottom of B. You can make him work. He has some good tools, which is like really high hits, decent control, four seam. He has a sinker now. They gave him a sinker. And he throws like a 90-ish mile an hour slider, which is fast enough to jam lefties. He'll jam switch hitters, and then you can also work it away to righties and kind of mess up their timing. But it definitely doesn't take him to like being an elite pitcher by any means. Yeah, guys, that is our tier list. So that is everybody ranked. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I can't link it. Showzone is still broken. If I try to hit save, it will just delete the page. So we're gonna do one quick scroll through, and then we'll just send it to the gulag, and it's gone forever. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like, subscribe. We are getting towards the end of the year. Till next time, peace.